Stay tuned for part 2 of this video series on the additions to the man cave, or actually the building that houses the man cave. That'll be coming up as soon as the construction progresses to the point where we can get some more video and post it right here. This will be part 2. In the meantime, I invite you to watch part 1 of this video series. That will be necessary before you get into part 2. It'll make more sense that way. One of the next things to do was to finish the closet. I've made a rough drawing so we can figure out where things are going to go. The closet and the pantry are carved out of attic space, so we don't have to figure out how to put them in the hallway. There's the closet. We're taking out that wall, and here's where the pantry is. We've already finished that, and that wall has been removed. We've essentially re-sheetrocked the entire space. Years ago, we removed what was left of the original wallboard when the rodent control guy was doing his thing in the building. So now that the new stuff is going up, it became a guessing game as to how to space the electrical boxes so that they would fit flush with the new wall. This one had been placed there when there was an additional 3/4 inch spacer in place. It was decided not to use that, and so it was removed, meaning we had to reposition all the boxes that had been set in place, allowing for that 3/4 inch. As I said, there's been a lot of new sheetrock brought in to be installed. Angel is marking one sheet now for cutting to size and to space, and up it goes. This one was for the ceiling area at the bottom of the stairs. It's a good thing we had several workers on the job that day because it's tough to do the wallboard installation on the ceiling. It's really a two-person job. The walls, however, are a different story. While it's nice to have help putting those up, it can be done by one man. I tell you, we go through a lot of sheetrock covering the building with a 4x8 space one time after another. Here's the end wall at the landing at the bottom of the stairs. Nearly one full sheet of sheetrock screwed in place, and then it's on to the next one. Ka-ching. The decision was made to bring the new refrigerator upstairs and put it into position in the kitchen. I thought it was doing fine downstairs, but nonetheless, here it comes. So there it is, sitting in its new place in the kitchen. At least we haven't had to remove the protective packing material yet. Okay, back to the sheetrock, or more accurately, the taping and mudding. Here's Juan slathering on the mud. I could just sit and watch this guy by the hour. If you ever try to do this and make it look good, and without using a ton of mud, you know how hard it really is. This guy makes it look like child play. Don't get me wrong, we go through a bunch of mud. This is just the rough coat. But he gets it on without a lot of waste and leaves very little for sanding for the next coat. While I'm finally finished with the panel, I still have some other electrical work to finish. Electrical work like these boxes along the south wall of the building. That box up on top is for a TV to plug in. I think it's about the right height for a wall-mounted TV. I'll add a box for cable alongside it. Anyway, I decided to do all of the wiring in MC, metal clad. We don't have a rodent problem in this building anymore, but just to make sure, I wired the place in MC. The critters love to chew on Romex until they bite into a live circuit, that is. Anyway, MC eliminates that potential problem. MC isn't that much different than just roping the place in Romex, but it requires some special tools and connectors. By the time I finish this job, I'm reminded of why I hung up my tool belt and retired from electrical work. So here's where we are. The closet and the pantry have been finished, at least with the first coat of mud. But you can get an idea of what the space is going to look like. And the stairs are pretty much done, at least so we can set the recessed lights and get that part of the project behind us. Okay, so the stairs are half done, but at least the ceiling is done so we can have the can lights working. I had the MC already installed for the south wall outlets, and it was time to finish that part of the job. The MC requires a different kind of cable connector, one that will clamp the conduit in place. So there's the matter of cutting the piece to size and then installing the clamp, which in turn gets mounted to the box. The problem I found was that I couldn't just cut a hole for the box. I had to modify it quite a bit to allow for the right-angle cable connectors. That leaves a pretty big hole for the box, but then that's something for the sheetrock guy to finish. I'm using cut-in boxes for this part of the job. As I said, that requires making a hole for the box, modifying it, and then using a screw gun, tightening the clamps that will hold the box in place. It works pretty well, if I don't modify the hole so much that there's nothing left for the clamps to grab onto. Over the holiday weekend, we had some of the grandgirls here, and the oldest decided, with a little prodding from Granddad, that she'd help with the wiring. So we tackled the cupola. She got the box in place, and then was my assistant handing me tools as we finished running power to a future switch box for that space. Actually, I could get used to that. She wore the tool belt. All I had to do was say what tool I needed, and she handed it to me. Made the job go faster. And she'd learned a little about trade work. She's 17, so maybe she learned one more thing that she doesn't want to do for a living. I need to take out 2 of those rafter pieces and replace them with shear wall and horizontal bracing. But for now, the wiring is in place for a future light switch. UPS delivered the kitchen sink, so I've added that to the stack of things that will have to be added later. The cabinets have now been painted. The exterior will be a light gray, and that'll be applied in the next few days. I'm going to pause in this description of the improvements to the space to give us a reminder of what the space once looked like. These pictures were actually taken downstairs, but the whole structure was affected, both from the accumulation of stuff and from the state of the building itself. The portion that hadn't collapsed was used for storage of the aforementioned stuff. As a result, you can see getting to the bad parts of the building to maintain it was nearly impossible. Here we see how much the structure had settled. The church had been built out of a space carved out of a hillside, and over the years the dirt would collapse on the rear of the church and cover it. Between that and the fact that there are 5 live springs under the floor, the building suffered badly. One whole corner of the structure was completely rotted away, from the floor to the ceiling. We actually had to make a decision whether to demolish what was left of the building or to restore it. Knowing that because of its location on Highway 101, we would never be able to rebuild it, we decided to bring it back to the point where it was no longer in danger of falling down. Several years and several $1,000s later, we have a sound structure and a completely usable space upstairs. And that's the reason we have the structure to work with today. I'm kind of at a stopping place right now. The construction crew is off on other jobs, and I managed to fall victim to a table saw kickback when I was working on a piece of wood for this door. I decided to widen it. It was just too narrow before. I'm toying with the idea of widening it using more of the same wood, that is chipboard, and then making a couple of Dutchmen out of 2x4s to hold it together. That's what I was doing when one of them got caught the wrong way in the saw and kicked back into my hand, split the finger at the nail and fractured the tip of the finger. And before anyone says, yes, I know, it's a good idea to use that anti-kickback feature on the saw. I know that, okay? I know that. The closet and the pantry are now completely covered and ready for final sanding and painting. I haven't had a chance to show the vanity without a lot of stuff piled on it, so here it is. It has a nice marble-looking sink and countertop, and they did a pretty good job of making a workable drawer on it, too. Most units I've seen just put a blank cover over that space because of the sink behind it, but this one now has some usable space in there. The toilet and shower areas haven't changed much. A little more sheetrock, that's about it. I still don't have a plumbing permit. I went to the city, who sent me to the regional sewer agency. They gave me a piece of paper and sent me to the county. The county people were very nice, but told me I had to get more paperwork from the city. So I've gone full circle, and I'm still no closer to the permit than I was a couple of weeks ago. Not much change in the kitchen. Again, a little more sheetrock, although that piece covering the water heater is just screwed in with a couple of screws so it can be removed for inspection. If I ever get a permit, that is. Standing at the seating area of the living room, those boxes are wired, and I did add another empty box for future cable. Okay, I'm going to wrap up part 2 of this series right here and move on to part 3 as soon as we get, again, enough material to put something together for that. Oh, and before I forget it, I'm told I'm supposed to ask that you subscribe to my channel, like and thumbs up, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Anyway, that's it for part 2. Stay tuned for part 3. That'll be coming up as soon as we gather enough material to start on that. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.